what we've got ourselves in a situation, and this is where he brought up about people being united and unified, which is where we are not right now, is that the whole, for 60 some years, they have been pushing a new narrative about America, that the founding of America was bad. We killed the Indians. We were based on slavery. We, you know, we took away lands from these people. We took away lands from those people. And yes, if you don't know the history of civilization or the history of the world, I can see how some people can come to that conclusion, which is why they don't teach history. But if you know the history of civilizations, you know the history of colonialism, which has been going on since the beginning of man. I mean, if you read Herodotus's book, The Histories, Persia was sitting and invading everywhere it went, and it would absorb these lands. And these people now were subjected to the king of. You have the Athenians did the same thing. You had the Romans doing the Egyptians. So it's always been just a natural way for the powerful country to expand itself. That's what was going on in the 1700s and in the 1600s, where European powers, Spain, Britain, France, the Netherlands, were kind of pushing their way through North America and South America. And when it got to, let's say, Mexico, the Mexican people were not a united people. This is why they were so easily defeated in the Mexican-American War. The people were not united. And the land that Mexico inherited was land that was part of the Spanish Empire. So they acquired all this land, which really wasn't even theirs to begin with. A lot of those lands were Indians, the Native American Indians. They controlled all the land. Mexico acquires the land because they defeat Spain in the revolution, and now they've acquired all this land from Spain, and they don't know how to run it. There's no infrastructure. There's nothing. When you had American settlers going in, and the Mexican government was too unstable to help them with any type of infrastructure, they naturally, even though they left the United States, like the people of Texas, they naturally looked to the United States to build their infrastructure, to build because they were getting nothing from Mexico. So, that's how, say, the Southwest ended up becoming part of the United States. But if you don't teach how and why and what, then all you see is we stole land from Mexico, and that's all they think. And all the lands that from if you read a little bit about the Pilgrims and what went on after the Pilgrims arrived, there were programs and laws in place to protect the Indians from selling too much of their land to the European colonists. But the Indians wanted and needed things that the colonists had, like metal pots, cooking pots. They wanted those. They wanted flint muskets. So they didn't have money to give to the colonists. They got it in exchange for land. And granted, yes, it accumulated to the point where a lot of the Indians started to realize, hey, you know what, we're giving away too much of our land. And then you had these wars. And the colonists always came out on top. More land was acquired. So, and I've heard people sit and say that we intentionally, or the colonists intentionally, spread smallpox to wipe out the Indians, which is another BS line, because the smallpox and typhus and all the other diseases that came from Europe were brought on accidentally, exposure. And they didn't have a cure for it. They were not inoculated. They got wiped out. And then the colonists took over the land. So without knowing that information, you automatically think that all the colonists did was come in, commit genocide, steal the land, and that's that. And that's what America is all about. And that's what they've been teaching kids today for the last 60 plus years.